Okay, so this panel is honestly not for any of y'all. This is only for me because these are four companies that I admire. One of them I'm happy to be a part of as well. And I just want to learn from these guys about what they do so that I can start doing that as well. And this is just for me to steal business plans and ideas. If you all want to take notes, you all can as well. But coming to the first point, I would love for all of y'all to talk a bit about your incredible companies. I've been watching these from a distance. Some of them I've been I've been very fortunate to work a lot with Pranit in the past as well. But these are probably the four of the most exciting companies in music for me right now. If I was a VC fund, I would want to put all my money into these. And I'd love to understand how y'all are building these out. What was the vision they started off with? First, I think just start off by explaining what your various different companies do. You can go in this particular order.
So yeah, hi guys. Good afternoon. I'm Rohan Jain. I'm founder and CEO of Madverse Music. We are a music distribution and a label service platform born out of India. Why we built a platform like this was, of course, when I started looking at music industry, it took me a lot of time to understand how complex is it to run in this industry, how to operate and everything. And then I saw like if for an executive like me, it's so hard to understand and simplify this industry, how hard it would be for an artist to actually run their careers in this industry. So started building Madverse with a vision to actually democratize artist growth in the music industry and how they can leverage tech in the modern age industry where they can grow, distribute, monetize from various sources, and of course grow as an artist and go global. So started with that. It's been 2 years, and thank you so much for having me on this panel.
Hi guys, I'm Pranit. We founded Morpha Music maybe year and a half ago. And the entire intent behind it was really that we love working with artists. But for a long time, what we would do is because I'm also a partner and one of the main people at Jugaad Motion Pictures, and like for us, it was always like a service industry where we would just make music videos for like artists, but we didn't feel like we were part of like their journeys. And like while we were helping out a lot of their artists, really identify what their visual branding is. We couldn't sort of like elevate it to the next level because constantly working with an artist again and again at a music video level is very challenging, only because of the fact that like for a production house it's never going to be enough money, and for an artist it never makes sense to invest any more money. So we decided that like we really want to be part of like this 0 to 1 journey of like a lot of the artists that like really impress us, and so that we can give them a sort of like branding that they would not be able to do on their own. That's why we started Morpha Music, and our entire goal was to only work with discovery artists. So, like a lot of the artists that we work with, some of them have zero music out, some of them are maybe 2 songs old, 3 songs old, and we just want to help grow their careers.
Outright mainly grew from this idea of empowering songwriters, creatives, everybody who necessarily crafts a song, because a lot of them, especially because they're young, are exploited for their rights. They don't know what their rights are, and people just take advantage of that. We started off as a music incubator as sort, where we have young creatives, but now we're slowly moving into a full-fledged publishing company where we are not only managing songwriters, we have 14 songwriters. Our average age would be 24, apart from one outlier who's obviously Irshad sir. He's a legend in the industry. Uh, and we necessarily are just doing everything on the border to change the publishing ecosystem in the country, because it's not very well defined, and kind of we are educating everybody about the same and taking it one step at a time. Hi guys. Um, I think First Wave is trying to build a creative ecosystem for artists to thrive in. So, be it from an audio perspective, video perspective, marketing perspective, it's a bunch of creatives, writers, composers, producers on the video side trying to shape their creative journeys, because um, I think as an artist, it sometimes gets lonely to sort of try and do that yourself. Like for myself, when I moved to Bombay when I was 24 years old, I thought recording my own record meant going to a studio on a Sunday and getting an engineer to come and record my guitars and vocals. But obviously, it takes a lot more than that. And I think what we're trying to do is essentially, instead of an artist going round and round in circles to try and figure it out, can we make them see that straight line to sort of take their journeys from the 0 to 1 mark? Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Yeah, I think one of the inspirations behind it, I don't know if you guys are too young for that, but like when we saw Abhijit Sawant on like Indian Idol, uh, he there's no reason why he shouldn't have been one of the biggest superstars in the pop scene. But the minute you get him out of that show and he's expected to write his own music and perform it to thousands of people, because of the lack of a team, because traditional labels act typically as check cutters rather than creative supervisors in their journey. So that was the insight with which we started First Wave.
Got it. Now, since this is more of a business panel, I really want you all to get into the numbers and your business models in particular. I'd love for you all to explain where do you all really invest the most of your resources. If you all have funding, where does that money come in from? Do you all self fund? How does that go about doing it? And how do you all make money from the various different things that you do? Be it acting as a new age A&R creative label front, be it acting as a publisher, be it acting as management plus label plus creative plus I don't know 300 other things bundled into it, and of course as incredible distributors and marketers. So I'd love for you all to explain a bit more about your business model, and of course also put a little more emphasis on funding and revenue as well, of how those play a role in your businesses.
I think perfect. So I think I'll start with we have like 1,05,000 artists across our ecosystem today, and recently forayed into enterprise where we're onboarding artist management companies and label dashboards. So we have 30 plus enterprise companies today who work in India and UK. Our business model kind of starts from a SaaS platform where we take subscription to get access to our platform, and then we take commissions into royalties of what you generate across streaming platforms and social media. Whatever we have raised till now in our funding, we have completely invested that into building tech, because we think tech is our way to actually democratize and build the right tools for the artists and catalog owners in this ecosystem to grow and kind of monetize efficiently. So I think that's where we are focused on, and we are continue to build more and more tools so that people can get access to everything. So no one has to come from maybe a tier 3 or tier 2 cities to get access to something that we get in the tier 1 cities.
Got it. So your monetization happens on both the subscription plus percentage of revenues dispersed.
Yeah, and we also have some in-app tools. So we have built AI tools that are separately, in-app services. So you can leverage those from like building your cover arts, mastering your track. We recently introduced Oxy, which is your AI manager. So we kind of monetize in-app in that manner, so that you can build those, like, leverage those tools to improve your skills and polish them.
Got it. Pranit?
So I feel that like as this challenge with like most companies that are trying to do a lot of different things, especially on a label sort of like front, is that figuring out revenues when you're working with discovery artists. Like, I mean, it's everybody out here, whoever's released music, they realize that like streaming really isn't the way to try and build that. That's the reason what we do is the 360 deal that like Ayushman was talking about, is the fact that we manage them and we sort of like figure out the right positioning and branding for them throughout everything that we do. And I don't know if all of you were there for Ayushman's previous session, but like definitely because we are working with young discovery artists, we at this point itself are getting them used to paying out higher commissions. Definitely do not work on industry standards.
So what would that number be?
Right now, everybody's on a 30% to start off with.
But at 30%, you're still funding 100% of.
Correct, obviously, but like at the end of the day, you're still trying your hardest to get them aware about what it actually takes to build a team around them. And like the fact that, like, yes, you do have the services of, like, say, Jugaad right next to you trying to help you build out your visual identity, but like there is an additional thing that you do need to shell out for that. So that is the way that we structured it at this current point. And the idea is always to have, and we to have different things that we're working on at any particular moment. When it comes down to like working on branded content with these guys, we're thinking about the same conversation we've had with Ayushman a bunch of times about launching some video IPs of the artists, and how do we sort of like build all of those things. So the strategy is really to try and make the artist a brand as quickly as possible, so that like the music needs to consistently keep working, because if it doesn't, honestly, the artist is no longer a brand. But also to start leveraging that as quickly as possible.
I think with the level of services and the quality of services you'll provide, 30 is still too low. We should look at
100%
something
higher. Here,
But yeah, Murtuza, sorry, over to you.
Yeah, so we mainly have two primary models. One is a management segment and one is a publishing segment. Under management, we handle everything for the artists, from getting them more work, getting them more placements, managing the deals, making sure they get better publishing splits, they get master points of some records. They also get a great upfront fee, and they're also well credited everywhere, because in India, unfortunately, crediting is still not well versed with, while it should be a standardized procedure. In terms of publishing, we are now, as we are moving into becoming a full service publishing company, we are also going to be acting as the publisher, pitch for the songs for sync, pitch for the songs internationally, get placements done. We are also running internal camps where we build demos and pitch to artists both in India and outside of India. Other than that, we also are acting as the creative A&Rs and music supervisors for all the project across all the records, and making sure they can monetize perfectly. So the revenue models right now currently would be, firstly, via, we're doing a lot of ad film music, so via ads where they pay a good decent lump sum amount. That is how the artists monetize. Then there is obviously producing for artists. They're working with everybody in the independent scene as well as the Bollywood scene, also getting slowly into film scoring. And lastly would be publishing income, which we're slowly getting into.
Got it, Raghav.
So there are three aspects to our business. One is the management piece where we're responsible for 8 artists, 3 producers, and 5 frontline artists. The second is the recorded music piece, which is a hybrid between distribution and the label side. So some of these artists end up releasing music at the label, but they can continue to release music with outside labels as well. And it's the distribution piece. We did about 320 songs last year. And the third aspect of it is the agency model, which is anybody looking for creative solutions for their business, be it labels, so marketing services for labels, performance marketing, be it video production, audio production. So that's the third aspect of it, which actually helps cash flow, because a lot of the second side of the business, which is the recorded side, is more long term from a revenue standpoint. I'll quickly talk about the how we went about going about the funds for this. So um, in August 2023 is when we launched. We were pretty fortunate to get a distribution advance from Universal Music. What that essentially means is, think of us as suppliers. They are distributors which basically distribute to all these streaming platforms. So to secure our exclusive supply of content, they gave us an advance to be able to fund some of that music that we generated. We raised a small friendly round in December 2023, um, which kept us going and sort of helped us build the infrastructure to build the agency side of the business. And in December 2024, I raised another HNI round, and this is through CCPS equity investments. Yeah.
Awesome. What I'm hearing from all four of y'all is that y'all have a core business, but y'all have always tried to build ancillaries around it, uh, which have really supported that. As entrepreneurs in your own capacities, is this something very consciously you all thought of on day one, or are these pivots that you all had to make through various different things? Rohan, you have Madverse as well as you all have a marketing amplification side to it, because of course you all are pushing out so many records. Pranit with Molfa, Jugaad, and God knows 100 other things that you all are doing under that one umbrella. Murtuza, again, though you're a publisher, you're also acting as a management agency. You're also getting into picking up bespoke projects and delivering those as an agency. And Raghav, you already explained very beautifully about how y'all are doing it. So, as most young entrepreneurs get into this, and this is a question I keep asking myself a lot: do you really need to be as diversified as you all are, or would you all have rather stuck to one core? Whoever wants to take this, however you all want to approach this.
I think I'll start on this because I've heard this question 100 times that I've started Madverse, because everyone was like, why don't you focus on building the distribution piece that you've been building? But I think one thing that we need to realize as entrepreneurs in the music industry, that's a patient capital game. Like, it's not a B2C kind of a business where you see a return in 2-3 years of time, right? So we like looking at returns is at least 7 to 8 years from the day you start investing into this business. So especially from the tech side, if we look at, like, if you're of course like the artist management bit, and I'm sure like they break it down more on that, but I think from especially from tech side, like the return will take a lot of time to come in. So we were like, why don't we build businesses on the sides that can help you run the cash flow for that particular time, and also kind of adds more value to your community, because as you grow and as you speak to your community, you get to hear a lot of things that, hey, if you guys are doing this, why don't you guys help us with this, help us with that? Because as an artist also, like, they're looking for 100 things from you on that front. So it makes a lot of sense, as Raghav also said, right? Why, like, they build this for the cash flow business, and that also helps the artist in your community. So it makes sense to kind of diversify and build that kind of a bigger umbrella for your community to operate in.
Similarly, it always comes down to cash flows, because otherwise you're just only bleeding money, especially when you're trying to build something in like music. Because like everything eventually, especially if you're on the label side, is a catalog game. And until you don't have the numbers on songs, it's really not gonna help. Like today, with the sheer amount of work I do at like Jugaad for like commercials, I'm only using Wolf artists to make the music, because like it also gives them money. It helps me do it at like a slightly lower cost than I would have to do outside, because I'm like, that's my margin, that's my management fee on it. And it sort of like helps out manage cash flows. It's always a cash flow problem.
So publishing in general is like a pension fund for the artists. So again, coming back to cash flow, they need a lot of upfront money to fund their projects, because in the long run, again, money is very important. So the ad projects, the scoring projects, while we necessarily don't have any rights on it, it's generally buyout situation. It gives a good upfront chunk for them to keep working on projects that would give them master points and publishing points that would pay them and even their families for the rest of their lives, and post they die as well. So it's again a cash flow problem.
Yeah, similar. I think if I had an option, I would just spend time building these 8 artists that I was working with, because even when we sign an artist, you want to give them your life, because that's how much you care about at least some of the talent that you work with. Um, but I think the agency side of the business is the only thing I'd want to cut out over time, and almost like not charge a service fee for it, but instead it's like an ecosystem that exists for the artists that we're working with. Um, but today we have to do it because it's the only thing that makes money in the short term, which sort of keeps the cash turning. So if I had an option, I would cut out the agency model as a service business and build it from a standpoint of for the ecosystem that we're trying to build. Yeah.
So basically, your passion point takes the longest amount of time to get you solid returns, and you need to do everything else to fund that dream while you're working on it. Yeah. I'm glad that doesn't work in my business. I make money on day one. So I'm very happy. I don't have cash flow problems per se. And I'm glad at least ours is able to do that. But coming to the label business in particular, and Pranit and Raghav, this is particularly for you all, and Raghav, you probably heard this as much as I have, that everyone with a little bit of money wants to get into the label business. They feel like they are great A&Rs. They feel like they've understood it's super easy to do. अरे मेरा दोस्त अच्छा गाना गाता है मैं उसको पैसे डाल दूंगा स्टार बना दूंगा.
That's why
But
we started our agency business.
but more often than, I mean, I've not seen a single case, first of all, of him breaking out, but even if there have been any, kudos to them. But I know for a fact that the label journey takes a lot of time to recoup. I'd love for you to put in perspective of numbers or even just years as to how long does it actually take to recover the kind of investments that you all are putting into these artists. And I think that also gives you a sense as to how patient you need to be. A lot of people look at labels in a very evil lens as well, saying that they're taking everything away from an artist, and all they're getting is a slight bit of an upfront check against it or whatever that might be. But a lot of times, that slight check that you have gotten, in more cases than not, is way bigger than what that song is going to recoup over a pretty long period of time. So I'd love for you all to put that into a bit of more perspective basis your own journeys as entrepreneurs, and of course in this entire time of building catalog.
I think that was the issue at hand with which I sort of got into it as well. But I think we tried to look at it from a different way also, where a lot of the business model of how we've shaped the recorded side is um, keeping it low cost on the audio side, because we're trying to give enough skin in the game to the writers and producers who are working on it, so that it keeps costs low of being able to produce as many records that we do. And at the same time, I think from a financial projection perspective, I think 4 to 5 years from the time you started investing in the record is what we've tried to sort of work towards with everything we spend on marketing and sort of building out the artist from a visual standpoint, etc. Now, that could change in the next couple of years as the artists scale and need bigger budgets, etc., to work with.
But the rates keep dropping simultaneously.
Yeah.
It's not like those are getting
But
better.
to just give you like numbers, like we're at a between an 18 to a 25% from a year-on-year sort of recovery rate, which is decent from an industry standpoint, and that's we're trying to be really disciplined about making sure that that keeps in check. So, and I think the best part about having investors is that they keep like I have to report MIS every quarter, etc. So it helps me keep it in check, because if I was running it without having investors on my back, I feel I would have done it slightly more differently and maybe not as disciplined in that standpoint. So I think just keeping that basic discipline and building like an operating rhythm to be able to week in and week out release the amount of music that we are. And it's not just about quantity, but at some level it does require, I look at it as, if you're a label, you have to release a certain amount of music to sort of hedge your bets, if I had to call it that. So essentially, that's the model where when I sort of make any kind of financial projection with an artist, it's that 4 to 5 year window is what I look at from a recoupment standpoint. We're keeping costs low because the upside is also capped, because there's enough skin in the game for everybody contributing it to it. But at the same time, the risk also gets averted, because the capital that's going into building some of the audio, etc., is not as expensive, because that's our cost skill set as producers and writers and composers.
I mean, the same way he controls costs on audio, I control on video when it comes down to this. But that's exactly how we go about this. And we've been collaborating together for a while now, both Raghav and I. And I think it always comes down to the way that we are different from like most traditional labels is that we give the artist a higher sort of like back end on it, like so that they also feel incentivized that like, hey, I don't need to, this is not the only check that I'm going to be ever receiving. So I'm okay with the fact that like whether that check is nothing right now or the fact that's very tiny to begin with, to just start off to keep you comfortable. It just helps out if you ensure that like it's equitable when it comes down to, if the song really does well, the artist starts earning. I mean, literally with one of our artists on one of the songs, like we are as close to like her after 6 months of releasing a song, starting to earn money from it immediately. So like it's as simple as that. Like let everyone make money, no?
So in both your models, I think there's the label 360 model, which most artists, and including me as a manager, have opposed for a very long time, because initially it didn't make sense about why am I giving additional revenue to my label from my brand work, from my live work, etc. But Raghav, I don't know if that's the case in yours as well. But for Pranit, in your case, for example, because you all are also managing them, you're also making money of those things. That's obviously aiding your recoupment journey a lot quicker. Just as an opposing view, Raghav, why are you not choosing to take that additional live percentage if you're
So-
investing in
So
developing
we've
these guys?
basically kept it really flexible with the artists that we're working with, but at the same time, there are some artists that choose to get managed by us, which is why we're doing that. But just to give an example, we're typically investing in the first we're the first check cutters in the journey of an artist. And then at some point, if a bigger major comes in and says the next batch of songs that you guys are building, we end up becoming management to sort of represent them and get them a fair deal or a good deal for them. So that's essentially the journey that's happening. So we might be working with, say, 10 artists on the recorded side, but we're managing 5 of them. So it's not like every artist that we're investing in, they're also managed from a 360 perspective. It's just that because it's such a few number of artists that we're working with, from a recorded side perspective, I would say 70% of them are working with us on the live side or the brand side, because we're then invested in building their entire sort of journey. But I see where you're coming from that standpoint. But which is why, from a paperwork perspective, it's not like if they are signing on to an album deal at first wave, the next album also needs to, then there's none of that in there. So it's a set of songs that we decide to do together, and we're building the audio and sort of the visual aspect of it together. So it's not like, okay, for the next 3 years all your music needs to come out from this entity. Yeah.
Rohan and Raghav, again, I'd like to bring you all in for another thing as well. since all are the two companies out here that have been able to raise capital. And raising capital in the music industry is possibly one of the most difficult tasks one can incur, because unfortunately, there isn't enough proven history to back us up. Unfortunately, the ones that have been funding this journey the most historically have been labels, and they've honestly just tried to gatekeep the entire funding ecosystem from entering this. So, how difficult has that been? How do you really sell that story as a music entrepreneur, saying that I'm doing more than just getting customer delight? We were sitting with the government, and they said the most beautiful thing you'll do is you'll bring happiness to people. And I said that is great, but we also bring a lot of money on the table, which you don't realize. Uh, how do you really sell that story beyond someone just saying that, "अरे ये तो अच्छे गाने बनाते हैं, अच्छी बात है."
Yeah, I think when you talk about uh, not that, like I also thought the same that, but it's not that helps so much. But I think honestly, like when we go to the table and we start discussing, because historically in India, especially the kind of shutdowns we have seen, with the platform that have built from streaming and different kind of plays, so we have seen that exit is not happening, and there's a lot of skepticism towards the industry. And when they see that TAM of 4,000 crore revenue in the Indian music industry, which is too low in comparison to when they see a 1 lakh crore or maybe 20,000 crore industry when they're comparing who to invest in. So I think, and story side, when it comes to like honestly, I've iterated my story 100 times in the last 2 years about how to sell and how to actually make it work, because first of them, investors outside of the media industry doesn't understand this space at all. Like royalty, ये क्या होता है, कहाँ से आता है, कैसे आता है. So the basics of the is not clear among the VC community, and now when they kind of actually take the pain to understand this, and then they see, okay, इसमें कितना बड़ा, okay, 1,000, like 100 crores, 200 crores, like they see कि इसमें max तुम लोग like you will make a 300 crore business and that's it. Like they know that you will cap it out. So at that time, you have to position it really well on that front. Ki, hey, first of all, I understand like the consumer behavior towards music industry is changing. Everyone has seen that in the live. Everyone has seen that beyond Instagram, how things are moving towards. We have seen the rise of Anup Jains and all of that in post-COVID. Because earlier it was all like, yeah, Bollywood hai, ye hai, wo hai. तुम independent sector को thrive ही नहीं कर पाओगे. So you have to fight all of those with some answers that you have to carry those case studies in your hand, in your pockets, everywhere, where you can see this is something which has happened, and this is how we're going to foresee. And then of course, you see the western side of the industry, which has done really well. They have cracked the code, and like they are like we have competitors who have like $1 billion revenue today, right? So how do you actually reflect that and tell them that, okay, I have the resilience, I have the patience to build in this industry, and I will continue to build it till the time I actually hit that 1,000 crore mark or something like that. So explaining them that resilience and patience that requires to build in the music industry is the most important bit, in my opinion. And then, of course, you put down that, of course, you are actually going to solve the problem at a large scale and not just finish at the start line.
Yeah, I think it's the toughest thing that I've managed to do in terms of it doesn't come the most naturally to me, right? Because I think it was also about acknowledging that there was a lot of upskilling that needed to happen to talk the language that they needed to hear. Um, I think the good thing that I would, when I look back, is when I raised my first angel round, there were 12 people, which everybody frowns upon now. But there were 7 founders on that, the first checks that came in. And I feel like those 7 people have made such a big impact on how I look at numbers, businesses, etc. I think that's been incredible because they've given me the discipline and the almost rigor to upskill to be able to talk the language that I'm supposed to as a founder and not just as a creative, like you said about कि ये गाना अच्छा लगता है चलो करते हैं. I think that. I think the third is looking outside. I think both my investors for this particular round have been high net worth individuals who invested in early stage businesses, and it took a lot out of me to try and build that network. So I felt like I think that was another thing that really worked for me, where I started looking at people who had done interesting things outside, who would maybe understand where I was coming from. Um, so I think those are the three things that I've really learned. I think upskilling, the second bit about doing that. And I think the fourth thing maybe is I tried to look at it from a debt and equity perspective, because I think in the music industry, because labels are traditionally the check cutters and fund a bunch of stuff, I think I found a sweet spot with a major sort of giving us a distribution deal, but at the same time having the freedom to be able to take the decisions that you want to, because at some level they're not on your cap table. So I think those are some of the things that I've learned. It's been the most challenging, and I hate it a lot.
But as you all continue to build these, I'd love for both of you all first to talk about the kind of exit opportunities you all see coming out. In a most likely scenario, it'll either be another distributor label or, in your case, most likely another label. But if there's something else you all are thinking, I'd love to know that. And also, Pranit and Murtuza, you all have, Pranit, you've taken probably the similar to us, an exit is a very far off dream, probably never gonna happen. And Murtuza, you will probably exit by the time your great granddad, you will become a great granddad and more, and maybe it'll take that much longer for something like publishing, which you really need to have that kind of patience for. So I'd love for you all to explain your exit goals, and then you all to explain why you all don't really want to exit these beautiful businesses.
I think, of course, if you see from the case studies around, you talk about Africa, you talk about Middle East, wherever we've seen these kind of distributors and label service platform emerge and kind of take up a market share that, of course, majors would want to tap into. So everyone who's seen this journey, they'll be like, okay, in 5 to 7 years, once you have like a 10 to 15% of the market share in particular region, then there's a major or someone with like, and we're seeing a new rise of majors also coming. There are new companies who crossed $1 billion valuation recently, and they're also now onto that path of investing strategically and kind of looking at 4 to 5 years of complete acquisition into this ecosystem. That is something that, of course, we are seeing, and like a lot of conversation have risen on the fact that now because India has been on the map for everyone, and now they know that okay, Afro music time has come and they're growing now, and now Middle Eastern music is Arabic music is going around, and people have been investing in Arab music and the companies like themselves. So now everyone is focusing on India itself as like, okay, who has the share, who's doing what, are you actually making an impact, and what's the kind of database you are able to bring to them, right? So of course, on the investor side, who are also coming in right now, they know that with the historical case studies that they have seen, okay, like 4 years, 5 years, 7 years maximum, that they'll be able to see a complete 100% acquisition of a company like us.
I think trying to look at it more from a mode perspective, to say that how do we make ourselves so distinct from a creative perspective? Where can we be creatively super advanced and sort of really make a difference? And be from a distro, distro ecosystem, almost like a music ecosystem. Today, we're at about 400,000 followers combined with our Spotify and our Instagram handle. Can we really build it like a media ecosystem, so that the opportunities are not just limited to the music ecosystem, but almost, I hate to say this, but the pink villa for music, if we had to think about it, right? So I think just from a media ecosystem perspective, I think trying to sort of look at it more as a media company that is doing multiple things and sort of having an impact on pop culture. Um, I think from an eh, and based on these modes, which is what, like, I think with the limited resources that we've had in the last 1.5 years, the idea has been to not be a cute little indie company trying to do really small stuff. So the idea is to become a serious player in the music ecosystem, and with that, I think uh, by building out, sort of being an serious alternative, I think there are opportunities that'll come our way through. It can come in through distributors, it can come through labels, it could come through media channels who look at the ecosystem we've built. Yeah.
So basically for us, everything comes down to being part of pop culture. At the end of the day, I think one of the main reasons why we started Molfine, which is why we will continue down this path that we have started, was the fact that we realized that like the coming of age stories, like if we really look at like say films historically, like all the big stars today who are superstars have all come out from coming of age stories. But those are not films that like anyone is making today. And what we really wanted to do was bring the next generation of superstars to come out of music. The idea and the intent is that if you discover them early enough and you spend 4 or 5 years training them and working with them, at 22, 23, they're really ripe to sort of like do way more than just do like shows and sell out like tickets just as a musician. So the intent is always that how can we sort of like cross leverage everything that we work on to build an ecosystem that is self sustaining in a way, because I'm done sitting around waiting for stars dates to align. I'm more interested in building my own.
For Outright, it basically started off like the initial idea was to make it a collective to just empower songwriters. Then it turned into a management company. Then Ayushman planted the seed of making it into a publisher. And now we're a publisher. And I know for a fact in a few years we'll be way more than a publisher. And I know because of everything that's happening with the tech world, everything, we'll just get much better at it. And every day I basically wake up with this ke aaj ye gaane pe kaam karna hai, today is this project, today is this, and I'm so excited to do it. I really don't see an exit happening. Even if I had to, I would still want to be doing this for the rest of my life. So exit is no case in my
How old are you, Murtuza?
I'm 24.
10 साल बाद बात करते हैं.
But I love to like add something, because this question also comes up very often, and I've stated one thing couple of times, and people have called me crazy for that. But I just said like maybe there's a time. It's time that India gives another major in some space, and if we continue to build in that format and we continue to build it at that large scale, because like we also invested in tech, foreseeing that we should be able to go global and set up a global footprint as Madverse in different regions and are able to actually, because what I've seen with the kind of power you get once you are global, that you're able to leverage and cross collaborate and actually build an ecosystem around an artist that is not limited to just particular region. So I don't think that, they can, like, I really think that, there is a space for a next major to maybe rise from India and do acquisition in different parts of the world.
That's awesome, and I wish you all the luck to make that happen. But before we end, I would love for all of you all to, you're all very hands on with pop culture. Y'all are seeing exactly what is happening. I want y'all to talk a bit about the few opportunities which you feel are untapped. I wake up every day saying I want to do 10 things. I can't execute nine and a half out of those. Uh, and those are all great ideas, which I still feel someone else should go ahead and do. So I'm definitely going to share a few of mine. But I'd love for you all to talk about those few opportunities which are ripe, which require strong, beautiful entrepreneurs to build those out, which you all are more than willing to support as they come to life as well. So anyone can start. I'll go last.
No, I think a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about and the same thing that like Raghav's also doing, I feel that like music marketing ecosystem is absolutely dead. Like, and if we don't wake up to this and start figuring this out, like again, it's going to be those random Kishore Kumar greatest hits playlists that like random labels are putting money into trying to get like fake streams on and things like that. So like we have to figure out something, because like nobody knows what's happening with that.
So tastemakers in whichever way possible across the board, be it YouTube IPs, TV shows, radio shows, wherever it might come in. Just something that is a cool curator of music across the board.
We need our genius. We need our mahogany
Yeah, I
section.
feel like we need to stop waiting for those to come here.
Correct.
Why not build it ourselves? Why not? And any entrepreneur out here wanting to build that out, there is a beautiful opportunity to do that. Please go ahead and do it. We are definitely going to keep trying, but yeah, that's something we're already doing. Let's talk about things that we might not be doing.
I think from the tech perspective also we have seen like we recently established Music Tech India for that purpose only, because there was a lot of young folks who were reaching out to us like 20s and 21 in their college. They were building very cool stuff for artists from their college, and they're like some examples that I've seen is like people building on IP blockchain, because sharing IPs and monetizing IP in different format. And then direct to fan, we have seen different platforms coming across the world. So a lot of people are building into that, but that space really needs innovation from the lens that how actually you will keep the fans engaged on a platform and keep them hooked to yours, and not just from the lens of okay, there's Patreon, there's all of that happening in the West, and we should just copy that in India. But that's not going to work, because the kind of consumer we are seeing is very different here. So I think a lot of people are building in this space, and we would love to see if people are actually able to use tech to build in music. Like music education is also one thing that we really need in our ecosystem and build at scale.
I think touring, I feel just building out some kind of a circuit for an artist to go play 14, 20 cities in India. It's so disorganized. It's literally one person with the network, then sort of being the gatekeeper and sort of building it out. So I think some kind of a system to be able to build some kind of a booking mechanism, and build that network. It's been tried earlier. It's very, very hard. But I think just some energy into that space to just build a uniform structure would really go a long way.
I think an area of, again, I was just adding on to what Rohan was saying, to add on to music education in general, the ways an artist can monetize, because there's a lot of money on the table, but the artist doesn't know how to claim it. Sometimes there is not a lot of money on the table, but the artist wants to come and claim it. So there's been a there's been a big fine line where even the artist and sometimes even the management is not understanding how to monetize and claim certain portions of the pie. And that once that's fixed, I think everyone will be able to do great.
Awesome. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities that I've been wanting to get into, but I don't have the ability to execute and get into those. One of them is definitely venues, similar to what Raghav said, but I'm not talking venues like bars and restaurants. I think the biggest problem about our country is that if an artist has to perform, they have to go to a bar or a restaurant to perform their first set of few songs. That's a problem for two reasons. Number one, expensive. Number two, you are cutting off a very big population which should be actually consuming your music, which is the teen pop uh, category, which is something me and Rananda are trying a lot to break into with this boy band that we're trying to put together as well. School kids don't have a way to go and witness live entertainment outside of their school concerts, and maybe the one or two big festivals which are child friendly, etc., where they can go and experience it. The reason we aren't able to, it's sad that we aren't able to access these beautiful public parks that the government has built out as well. So we can work together with local malls, with the government, in fact, to get public park access, etc., to put out these performances. If we're able to put together busking venues, Ed Sheeran should not be stopped anywhere in the world from singing a song. If we're able to do that, I feel like venues is an incredible opportunity to get into. Number two is, I think we're going to start copying a lot of what the West does. So dedicated agencies that are able to actually go and agent artists and don't need to necessarily manage them. If Pranit and me didn't have to go and sell as well, we would be the happiest because we are great at talent development. If we had beautiful agencies, the sorts of a WMEUT, etc., built for India, I feel like that is a great space to go in and build out in as well. The third is touring. Touring across the board. We had this beautiful show that we were able to put up for Lollapalooza with Junita, and again, Pranit's team was very kind to step in and help us out. But neither are they subject matter experts at that, and neither are we. We were all literally hitting, shooting in the dark and hoping that it hits somewhere. Luckily, we were able to get to that, but there is a very, very strong need for incredible creative directors who understand stage theater, incredible technicians, incredible tour managers, etc., who can get in. Your tour manager should only focus on how to put together the best show and tour it around the world. So again, if you are able to build out an agency for tour managers, if you're just looking to freelance into tour management, it is a beautiful space to get into. Tastemakers, media platforms, etc., very big opportunity. Please start looking into that a lot more. And more as the boy band that we are trying to do, every other major label in the country is going to invest into collectives. The age gap for music consumption is going to keep growing down a lot more overall. So far, everyone going out and putting a song out is trying to target and advertise to the 18 to 30, 34-year old. Very soon, we're going to start thinking of innovative ways to start targeting the 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds. And there is a lot of money on the table that is there to be able to convert those consumers into very young, early fans. The way we were maybe about One Direction, Justin Bieber, Selena, when they were just starting off. So let's start finding more innovative avenues to tap into that audience. That is a gigantic audience which is lying untapped, and anyone who can build out an agency, tech, anything to service uh, that particular age group, I think is going to be incredible and timeless. So those are the few recommendations from my side. We are done with time, but thank you so much. These four companies are by far the most foremost when it comes to the music industry right now. I would want to learn from these guys every single day. They're building beautiful stuff. Please keep checking out their journeys. They are very inspiring as individuals. The kind of work that teams are doing is absolutely beautiful as well. And please start taking notice of the incredible stuff these guys do. You're going to learn a lot from it. Thank you.